Are you about to watch this video and you're not liked and subscribed to it? Like the video, please. Just go down. It's right there. It's right there.
I did. I hit it. I hit it. Have you hit it?
Welcome back to Starting Nine.
Let's go.
Episode 248. Got a lot of talk about today.
Come on, boy.
A lot to talk about today. Some things happened in the baseball world this past week. Some interesting conversations were had, some exchanges were had, some press conferences took place.
They were definitely recorded, that's for sure.
Sure were. Some bad news that we've got to get to, which isn't great. And then the Mount Rushmore for this week will be the Miami/Florida Marlins. Shout out to the Starting Nine Reddit that hates everything that we do. It's crazy. You would think that like a Reddit page dedicated to a show, it's supposed to be like the most diehard people. They fucking hate everything about this podcast. It's insane.
They support it.
Yeah. They're like, oh, they're doing something new and different. Fuck that.
What's the opinion? What are they? They're not having Mount Rushmore.
They're saying it's the middle of baseball season. Pardon my take, does Mount Rushmore in like during their downtime, and they're doing it in the middle of the baseball season when there's other baseball things to talk about. And it's like, you act like we do the podcast and don't talk about baseball. Like we just do the Mount Rushmore and then
Mount
call
Rushmore
it a day.
episodes, and that's it.
Yeah. It's like, hey, it's you get the podcast that you were going to get anyway, and then you get more. And then with the Mount Rushmore.
Do people realize that like people check out for entire months of the baseball season?
Yeah.
Months. Like people get really excited about their club in April. They watch the first 2 weeks of games here and there. They taper off, and then they check in around fucking June or July. Hey, how they doing again? Oh, All-Star break. I don't know. Are we good enough? Who do we got on the All-Star team? Yeah. Are we going to be trading away guys? Are we going to be acquiring guys? And then they check back in and out. So it's a great time to just tell you who the greats of the organization are, especially if you're going to get other podcast content on top of that.
And it creates a fun discussion amongst baseball fans during a time where it's like, like Marlins, perfect example. Like, is there anything super interesting happening with the Marlins right now? No, but let's talk about the Marlins. Let's talk about some historical stuff. Let's go back to the nostalgia. That stuff's fun. By the way, that's the last time I'm ever going to acknowledge that Reddit page ever again. They're just the worst, just the absolute worst. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, actually, no, I have.
Sure.
Like the Barstool Reddit page. Yeah, the Barstool Reddit page is also a collection of people that consume Barstool content and hate everything. And the Starting Nine Reddit page is also just a collection of people that hate everything that we do.
Is that
I don't know what it is about Reddit.
Is that what Reddit platform is for people who are,
I guess,
diehard into whatever they're consuming?
You can't get a Reddit login unless you hate the subject that you're subscribing to. It's crazy.
I don't get it, man. I don't use the internet to hate. I don't. I find much more value.
Yeah, check out the YouTube channel, Starting Nine on YouTube, full episodes, every single one. They're now up on the YouTube channel. We got a bunch of other content that's going up on there. But the Gerrit Cole press conference this past week is probably going to take up a decent chunk of the discussion to open the show, because I've never seen anything like it. And Dr. Claw, if you could just run the audio right here, just to give the listeners a nice little refresher of exactly how bad it was.
Yeah, how not to answer your questions.
So my first question, I guess, so if you're Gerrit Cole, right? And I want to just say this up front. It's not just Gerrit Cole. Like, no, we're not, like, I think there's a lot of irony here as it pertains to Yankee fans defending Gerrit Cole, because Yankee fans are there is not a fan base that has come after the Houston Astros more than Yankee fans. Right. They are crushing the Astros even to this day about the sign stealing scandal. The Astros were not the only team that were doing shit like that. Like, maybe like the trash can thing was like a unique way to do it, but in terms of like using cameras to steal signs, the Astros were not the only team to do it. They were just A, the one that got caught, and B, the one that won the World Series that year. Gerrit Cole is basically the Houston Astros of Spider Tack, because he's the best to do it, and he got paid the most because of it. So Gerrit Cole has become the Houston Astros of the spider tack scandal that's going on in baseball right now. So you, as a Yankee fan, you have to accept that. You have to accept that, like, that your guy is going to be the face of this.
And you have to understand that the reason, or part of the reason why that's the case, is because you've got Trevor Bauer, who has been extremely vocal, and these two have been tied to each other since college.
Sure.
Right? Long before any spin rate cheating scandals were a thing, there had been conversations about the relationship or lack of relationship, however you want to view it, between Trevor Bauer and Gerrit Cole. Hints of jealousy from either side. I don't care what side of the lane you're in or what side of the line you're in on. That's part of why Gerrit Cole has been such a central figure now in this conversation, is because all of the energy surrounding Trevor Bauer has kind of sucked Gerrit Cole into the wake. Because you talk about Trevor Bauer, and he's made it apparent that spin rate and its impact on the game is something that needs to be paid attention to if we're going to have conversations about the way the game looks as far as offense goes and the strikeouts. And so when Gerrit Cole is kind of brought into that conversation by a guy like Trevor Bauer, who isn't somebody that we just talk about every 3 weeks, Trevor Bauer's name comes up every day. Every day, somehow, some way, Trevor Bauer's name is in the media for something. And now that you're able to kind of put a face to the transgression, meaning you've got Gerrit Cole, you've got StatCast numbers, you've got all of the information you need now, that is why this is such a big deal now.
Yeah. And there is, and I know that there are people that are saying, well, if you're going to call out Gerrit Cole, you have to call out Trevor Bauer. And it's like, Trevor Bauer is calling out himself, basically. It's totally different situation. When you have Gerrit Cole is using spider tack to increase the spin rate on his pitches so that they're nastier and less hittable. And Trevor Bauer is screaming at the top of his lungs, hey, we need to clean this shit up. And Major League Baseball is like, no, we don't. And he's like, oh, okay, so you're not going to come after us for it? Why wouldn't I just do it? And then he started doing it, and he told you that he was going to start doing it. That's the difference between the two. So, like, it's not a matter of calling it out. I think we all can acknowledge that they're both using it. And the morality of the situation varies between Bauer and Cole. And then you have this press conference, which I think the point that I haven't made yet is, if you're Gerrit Cole, how the fuck do you not have a canned, rehearsed answer to that question? Not only just because his name was being surrounded by the scrutiny prior to all this coming out, but Bauer was asked about it a few days prior. So if you see that people are just bluntly asking Trevor Bauer, hey, like, what's the deal with this stuff? Like, have you ever used it? You have to know that you're next. And he was just totally caught with his pants down in that press conference. Hey, Gerrit, have you ever used spider tack? And he's like, I don't know how to answer that. Like, you basically just stood up there and said, yes, I have. And I've used it a lot. And it is what it is, you know, like,
you don't know how to answer. What don't you know how to answer?
Of course we acknowledge that other guys are using it, of course. But if you are one of these people that are like, well, you got to call out all these other guys, take yourself back to the steroid era. Barry Bonds was the face of the steroid era. Was he the only guy that was using it? No. And I think, honestly, if you really want to get technical about it, it was almost like, you know, Gerrit Cole was like a Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire type, and Trevor Bauer was Barry Bonds. Because in that situation, it's like you saw a guy like Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire hitting all these homers, and you're like, well, what the fuck? Like, I'm doing it clean and I'm really good. So what would I be if I started doing that? And then Barry started getting on the sauce, and he breaks the home run record and wins the MVP every single year. That's kind of like what Bauer's situation is like. But
Bauer,
you look at those guys.
The difference there is Bauer tells people. The difference is, like, and that's the biggest point for people who just want to hate Trevor Bauer. You need to understand, Trevor Bauer was the guy who was calling the commissioner and saying, we have a problem. You need to address it. And if you're not going to address it, or you're just going to give me lip service, well, then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show you exactly how big of a problem this can become. And Trevor Bauer went out and won a Cy Young, went out and got a shit ton of money, all because you forced him to. Think about that. It's almost like Rob Manfred was like, no, you know what? Prove it. Prove it. Like, we know sticky shit does what it does. You're saying what you're saying. We're not going to do anything about it. And so Trevor Bauer said, you know what? If that's the case, then what would you have me do? I've told you there's substances that make this game very different. You've acknowledged that, and you've even said, we're not really going to do much about it. So from there, Major League Baseball is telling its players that they have a decision to make. And really, they're telling them, you have a decision to make without any fear of punishment, because we're not going to do anything. So if that's the case, absolutely load it up, spin the shit out of that bad boy, and get breaded up. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah. And now, because the rumblings about the way the game looks and the strikeouts and the lack of offense, now Major League Baseball is seeing an opportunity to socialize the losses again, meaning the game is taking a hit. The game is under ridicule right now, and we have a solid idea as to why, because there's a lack of offense and pace and blah, 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 blah. Well, it's probably because guys are cheating. Probably because guys are using sticky shit. What? What? Excuse me? It has nothing to do with you changing the fucking baseball over the last 4 years. It has nothing to do with you not addressing the substance issue. That has no bearing and no impact on the fucking game as we see it today. It's now strictly about guys that are using spider tack. You are outside of your goddamn mind.
Yeah,
but that's
it's a combination. It's baseball. A combination. But yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing about this press conference is there's no longer a mystery.
The Yankee PR team, Carrabis. The Yankee PR team. How do you not?
How do you not go up to him and say, hey, be on the lookout for this question?
Forget Gerrit Cole. Like, forget him not being prepared. And that's why I said what I said. Like, Gerrit Cole finally feels what it's like to get your fucking doors blown off by something you just never saw.
How do you not go no comment there? How do you not say, like, yeah, I'm not going to comment on that right now?
You want to know why? Because, and this is what's ironic about it, he knows that if he would have fired that answer off, that would have been the definitive, I've done it. And instead, I don't think to dance around it and give you a non.
That response is 1,000 times more of a yes than no comment.
Dude, you're not telling me anything I don't know. I'm just telling you in the heat of the moment right there. Like, we all know, like, if Gerrit Cole, and this is the other thing too. Think about this. Gerrit Cole said something in that interview, in that response, that caught my ear. He said that there are some things in this game that are out of bounds that you just don't cross the line on. And he said that there are some things that he has stood firm on in that regard. Well, he didn't elaborate. Like, what are you standing firm on? Are you standing firm against steroid use? We don't know. He didn't tell us that, Jared. Are you standing firm on the sign stealing scandals that have been a part of the game recently?
Well, he benefited from that too.
I know, Jared, but he didn't tell us that he was standing firm against that. He just told us that there are things in baseball that are out of bounds that he has stood firm against. But he didn't tell us not a single fucking one of those things. Are you firm against the substance use issue?
What if,
I don't know, Gerrit.
What if I told you that he was referring to kind of like players ratting out players? Like, what if because in the same thing he was talking about Josh Donaldson. What if he's talking about, like, yeah, there's just some things that you don't do, like that's handled in house, or we police the game ourselves. Like, what if he was talking about Josh Donaldson kind of like whistleblowing on him?
Well, what he was talking about too is how he said, and this is 100% true, that the standards and practices in baseball have been passed down from generation to generation to generation. That is 1,000% true. That's not Gerrit Cole's fault. That's just the way things go. You learn your trade from somebody, right? You first walk into Barstool HQ as a fresh blogger out of a Viceroy program, and you're sitting next to somebody who's been pounding keys for 5 or 6 years. You're probably going to pick up a secret or two about how to get your blog in on time or whatever. I don't fucking know, but you're going to learn something about the trade. That's what happens in every profession. So that's what Gerrit Cole was saying was, this isn't the first time that something like this has been passed down. I'm not the inventor and creator of this, trying to find an advantage. It's pretty much what competition is all about, is how can you find that legal competitive edge? And where he's coming from is saying, we've never aired each other out about this. We've never blown the cover off of the ball for each other. Like, hitters were using steroids, pitchers were using steroids. Well, that's where this changes. That's where this changes, is because the hitters are saying, look, man, at the end of the day, we would probably be okay with it if there was something we could do to combat this. But there is nothing that we can do as hitters to combat this. So there is no spider tack for the hitter. There is no answer there. So you put a needle in your ass, I put a needle in my ass, even playing field. You put sticky shit on the ball and jump 300 RPMs, I still have just a bat in my hand. And now we're talking about seeing shit and the baseball doing shit that it's never done. And I'll say this too, Josh Donaldson, I don't know if he talked about this, but people have to realize hitters are cataloging pitches their entire life, their entire career. Okay. You see what fastballs look like. Boom. That's in a database. Curveballs, database. Slider, database. Changeup, that's in your database. That's in your catalog. And now those balls, they're doing things that they've never seen them do. The fastball is holding its plane longer than it ever has. So essentially, the fastball that's supposed to be affected by gravity and sinking and coming down is no longer doing that at the rate that it has. So guys are forced to now swing in places the ball just isn't until absolute contact. That is a hell of an adjustment to make when you're talking about 0.008 seconds of reaction time for a hitter. So now you're asking them to catch up to velocity that they've never seen. And they're asked to square up movement that they just have never seen or dealt with. That right there is where it starts to become unfair.
Yeah. And that's why it is still fascinating to me, the, I guess, lack of education or awareness on the difference. Like, every time that I tweet about this, like, someone responded to me on Twitter today when I was talking about Gerrit Cole, and they're like, can we stop calling this cheating? And I responded to it, and I was like, it is cheating. Like, when you're talking about stealing signs, if I'm at second base, I can look in, I can steal all those signs. If you're not careful, that's fair game. If I'm using an Apple Watch, or I'm using the video room, or I'm using cameras placed by the organization to steal signs, that is cheating. There's a difference. With pine tar, with sunscreen, is it in the rules that you can't use that? Yes, it is against the rules. However, it is accepted throughout the game that, and we'll get to Pete Alonso in a second. He was one of the guys that it sounded like he didn't understand either. He was saying, yeah, pine tar and sunscreen, like, that creates a substance on the fingertips that I have a better grip, so I have better control. That's not what pitchers are using spider tack for. No. Spider tack, you take it, you put it on your fingertips, and now you are increasing spin rate because you are trying to increase velocity and you are trying to increase the spin rate, which makes the pitch that you're throwing nastier and less hittable. Like, they're two different substances here's for example. Two different purposes. And that's what fans need to understand when you're talking about, like, I've seen people reach out and show me videos of John Lester in the 2013 World Series, and Craig Kimbrell's got stuff on his hat. It's like, that is pine tar. That is sunscreen. That is for grip. Spider tack is different. It is used for a different purpose. That is why hitters are like, hey, yeah, we said that we didn't mind the pine tar because we don't want to get hit in the face with 99. But when you're using the spider tack for increased spin rate and velocity, and you don't know where it's going because it isn't used for grip, That's what we have a problem with, because we don't have an answer to that as hitters. When you're using spider tack, it's not 2019 anymore. They're not juicing the baseballs anymore.
Here's your example. I had the exchange with who? Josh Donaldson. Guess what? JD and I played a lot of baseball together. Same team. JD knows what I used. And it was not a thought at all in his mind to look at me like I was somebody who had been cheating. Do you follow that? Correct. He's having the exchange about the sticky shit with a former teammate of his that he knows used resin from his bong. Okay. And at no point was he looking at me like, you're a cheating mother. No. Those are very, 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 very different things. And that's where I want baseball fans. Like, I want you guys to know that. I want you to understand that. And if you're sitting there saying, and you're asking yourself, so are you telling me that hitters and everybody else was totally okay with using pine tar and all this other shit, but now that there's some really super sticky stuff, they're not okay with that? Yes. That's like, as stupid as that might sound to you, as silly, that is exactly correct. That is exactly correct. And all pitchers and hitters want today. And look, I talked to probably 2 or 3 pitchers, either on the phone or in the DMs, every damn day about this, dude. Every day about this. And for the guys that use stuff, they just want to know where the line's going to be drawn. Give us something. Tell us. Approve a substance if that's what you're going to do. Or tell the world that it's okay that we use pine tar and sunscreen and rosin, and that you're going to draw the line at shit like spider tack. But you got to figure something out, because you can't have guys out there looking over their back, wondering what they're doing is going to get them banged for 10 games, get them suspended like that. That's not a fucking, you can't work that way. You cannot work that way. And if you're going to continue to roll out a baseball that has the inconsistencies in it that it does, you have to understand where your athletes are coming from. The hitters want to be able to hit the baseball, and they want to know that it's being pitched fairly. And pitchers want to know that they can pitch using X, Y, or Z without any sort of repercussions. Why baseball is failing to meet those very elementary needs is beyond me, man. It really is. And that's where the comments from Pete Alonso in his press conference really start to get you to scratch your head, really start to get you to think, because Pete Alonso started to draw a correlation between Major League Baseball owning Rawlings, the manufacturer of the baseball used by MLB, and free agency classes, and the deadening of the ball when there's a hot offensive free agency class in an effort to sort of stifle offensive production, which would in turn not have the owners forking out $300 million to guys. And then when there's a strong offensive free agency class, strong pitching free agency class, they want to liven the ball so that those arms aren't getting compensated. And that was a very interesting concept to have finally aired out and made public, because those conversations absolutely happened during batting practice in the clubhouse. And now it just feels like this is the first time that I can remember something like this being said publicly by a player.
So this is what Pete Alonso said, which was very interesting, because I like, have you heard this before? Like when you were playing?
Sure.
I've never heard
about manipulation.
Yeah.
Not necessarily with the baseball, Jared, because the ownership of Rawlings just occurred in.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago.
Just occurred 2018 was the takeover of Rawlings.
Correct. Right. Okay. So, and he was speaking as if it were a matter of fact. This was not Pete Alonso saying, "Oh, I have this theory," or rumor has it. He was like, no. Like, this is what's going on. So he said, the biggest concern is MLB manipulates the baseball year in and year out, depending on free agency class or guys being an advanced part of their arbitration. This was, he was talking to reporters. he was asked a follow-up question if the media idea or if the idea of MLB manipulating baseball is based on free agent class is something players talk about and believe in. And he said, oh no, that's a fact. And he said, in 2019, there was a huge class of free agent pitchers, and then that's quote unquote the juice balls. And then 2020 was a strange year with the COVID season, but now we're back to playing in a regular season with a ton of shortstops or position players that are going to be paid a lot of money, like high caliber players. I mean, yeah, that's not a coincidence. It's definitely something that they do. And earlier, I made the comment about like Alonso not really processing like what's happening with the sticky shit. He said, quote, for me, whether they are using pine tar, rosin, sunscreen, or bullfrog, whatever they want to use to control the ball, let them use it. Because for me, I go into the box and see guys throwing harder every day, and I don't want 99 miles per hour slipping out of someone's hand because they didn't have enough feel for it. That's fine. Because the pine tar, rosin, sunscreen, that actually is for grip. And that's not what we're talking about with Gerrit Cole and Trevor Bauer and everyone else that has these ridiculous spin rates that are just like, it's not just like the one thing that I was saying before was that this is not something that you can teach. Like you can't, like it is physically impossible. Like when I put out the spin rate numbers for Gerrit Cole, and they were the lowest that they had been since 2018 in his start where he got roughed up for the 5 earned runs. It was important to note that it was physically impossible for these numbers to look this way without the use of or no longer using a sticky substance. Like it's physically impossible, because I had people being like, well, maybe it was just a bad start. Like guy can't just have a bad start. It's like,
here, let's just talk about it right here. 2017, Gerrit Cole's four-seam fastball, 2,164 RPMs. 2017. Jared, what year did Gerrit Cole end up with the Astros?
That was 2018.
2018. That's weird because his fastball spin rate jumped over 200 RPMs when he got there.
Interesting.
Over 200 RPMs in a year. Okay, in 1 year, 200 RPMs
in one offseason.
In one offseason. Offseason. 2015, Gerrit Cole's four-seam fastball spinning at 2,155 RPMs. 1 year later, 2,185 RPMs. 2 years later, 2,164 RPMs. So even a slight reduction in spin rate. And that's over the course of 3 years, 15, 16, 17. And then in the course of one offseason, there's an increase over 200 RPMs. And then from that offseason in 2018 to 2019, he gains almost another 200 RPMs.
That is interesting. That's interesting to note.
That's interesting to know. I'm going to go to another guy here, and let's take a look and just see if we can figure anything out, see if there's anything we can extrapolate or take away from the numbers and growth. And that guy is going to be Trevor Bauer. We're going to take a look at Trevor Bauer and see what those numbers have to say. Because Jared, if you can tell the class, what year did Trevor Bauer start to tell people that this was an issue?
I believe that was 2019.
2019. Okay. 2019. That's great. We're going to start where we did with Gerrit Cole, though. So in 2015 on the four-seam fastball for Trevor Bauer, spinning at 2,200 RPMs, 2,225. And then you go to 2016, 2,245, 2017, 2,277. So you're seeing a very slight but very linear evolution in the fastball spin rate, right? 2,332 RPMs in 2018. So over the course of 4 years, 15, 16, 17, and 18, he's gone from 2,200 RPMs to 2,300 RPMs on the fastball. And then at the end of 2019, 2,400. But that's where things get interesting, Jared. Because 2019 is when Trevor Bauer told the world, hey, guys, there's some shit that's being used on the baseball that's turning that thing into a fucking dreidel. It is spinning so quickly. Nobody wanted to listen. So his four-seam fastball spin rate at 2,400 RPMs in 2019, Jared, shot up a little, just a little. 2,779 RPMs. His fastball spin rate jumped 300 plus RPMs in one offseason. And that's a guy who had spent 4 previous years increasing his spin rate less than 50 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, ish. Think about that.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting.
Crazy.
So that's the difference that it can make. I hope we did a good enough job explaining the difference in all of this stuff. And I'm sure that there are plenty of starting 9 listeners that already understand it and they get it and they know the difference. But it occurred to me in the last couple of days talking about it on Twitter and not just the podcast that there are a lot of baseball fans who don't quite understand the difference. So it's not to insult your intelligence, just trying to catch some folks up to speed so that you can follow along the dialogue and place your outrage accordingly.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Hey, if you're somebody who enjoys an adult beverage or two,
yeah,
from time to time,
yeah,
imagine going to a wedding and the bar being an open bar. And then imagine you going to a wedding and it being a cash bar and all they're serving is light beer. That's kind of what pine tar, sunscreen, resin and rosin and all that stuff is. It's the cash bar with light beer. The Spider Tack is open bar. You're going to forget what you've done on the dance floor. You may or may not end up in somebody's hotel room that you shouldn't be in. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to have any fucking recollection of any of it, like disaster area. That is the difference between resin and Spider Tack, rosin and Spider Tack, sunscreen and Spider Tack. That's the difference. You're going to remember the night because it's just light beer with a resin and sunscreen. You're probably going to end up in the drunk tank with Spider Tack.
Pretty much. That's fair. That does make sense. So yeah, we've beaten that into the ground. Speaking of the open bar, if you don't have New Amsterdam vodka at that open bar, I'm not interested. So you make sure you head to your local liquor store and pick up the new Summer co-branded Nav bottle. The same extra smooth 80 proof vodka, now with custom Barstool labels made from some of the finest quality grains from America's heartland. New Amsterdam vodka is 5 times distilled for unparalleled smoothness and filtered 3 times for a clean, crisp finish. New Amsterdam vodka, the official vodka of Barstool Sports. Someone made this point to me the other day as kind of like a spinoff from the Spider Tack stuff, because I've kind of been consistent with the, like I can kind of be on both sides of the fence here. Yes, I can acknowledge that it's cheating because it does give the pitchers an unfair advantage that the hitters don't have a counter for. But I also said, you know what, as a fan, like, I'm sorry, hitters, but I do enjoy watching the ridiculous shit that some of these guys are rolling out there on any given night. And that kind of ties into this first topic here. The Mariners have optioned Jared Kelenic back to the minors after he was like, oh, for fucking 500. And it kind of makes you think, like, you get called up to the big leagues, you're a big stud prospect. How many of those guys that Kelenic faced were cheating, resulting in his demotion back to the minors, costing him a big league paycheck? Like, that's kind of where I'm like, wait a second, huh? Now I don't know if I like this stuff so much.
Well, that's where and dude, we've had this conversation as an industry. We've had this conversation. The kid in AAA gets called up, and now he's facing somebody on the bump that's fucking sweating wind straw. Yeah. And now what? Now that kid got the bat knocked out of his hand, and it's because he's facing a guy on the mound who's, and you got to remember this is a little different now, but who was under a different CBA drug testing program. Like, there's a lot going on there. So
can minor leaguers still not smoke weed or no?
Oh no, we getting high, bro.
Okay.
Yeah, roll that shit up, player. Absolutely. But that's where that's where it goes back to the PED conversation. To your point, I think hitters, and I don't know if this would be available. I don't know if you could do this with the velo machines and the breaking ball machines, but maybe they stand in and track 50 fastballs thrown at 95 miles an hour with a 2250 spin rate. And then they stand in and track 95-mile-an-hour fastballs with a 2800 spin rate and have them visualize those and then be, hey, do you see the difference here? Can you tell the difference here? And then maybe that would give hitters or a guy like Pete Alonso, who to your point said, you don't really know if he understands the big difference there just because of what he said. And I'm going to say this too. What Pete Alonso said about not wanting guys to run 99 up in his ear hole because he wants them to have a feel for it and stuff, that, Jared, is a company line. That's a company line.
In what way?
That's kind of Pete Alonso's way of saying, I can understand what we've been doing and what we've been using and shit. Okay. I'm not here to call any one individual out specifically. And just to kind of stay in line with the presence of this stuff in our game, I, as a hitter, can tell you that I'm okay with it being used because of the command and control and velocity that I want to have in our game. And maybe in rooms where there aren't microphones or cameras and in conversations that you and I aren't having with Pete Alonso, he's like, yo, aside from the sticky shit, aside from the spider tack, I don't give a fuck what they use. I don't really know that there's a big difference or whatever. And that's why I say maybe a combination of education with examples for them to really base it off of is what hitters would need. But it's a company line in regards to not selling out another guy or not pointing a finger at another guy. Like, hey, yeah, we've all known this has been a part of baseball because we want them to be able to command the ball and we don't want to get drilled with 99. That's why it's kind of a company line.
Yeah. And I get that. I wish, what will it take now that, like, cause where we are in this timeline, it's a fascinating time to be a baseball fan because of what's going on here. And I feel like, people often are comparing what's going on right now to the steroid era, but during the steroid era, I feel like the similarity was that there was almost a, steroids weren't mainstream. Like if you weren't in like the bodybuilding scene or like the pro wrestling scene, like you didn't know about steroids back then.
Your local barista is probably on a small cycle these days.
Yeah, like like in the actual steroid era, I don't know that many people were thinking about or educated about steroids, even on like a basic level, because, you see, I think back to like the Mark McGwire Got Milk ad where he's shirtless and just fucking looks like Hulk Hogan. He was probably bigger than Hulk Hogan. And if that happened today, if you had a Major League Baseball player today that looked like Mark McGwire, everyone would be like, that guy's on fucking steroids. And back then it wasn't happening because like no one really knew about steroids, especially in professional sports. And in here, we're just starting to scratch the surface on spider tack being, in the same breath as steroids, and fans getting educated about what's the difference. Like, what's the difference between vitamins from GNC and anabolic steroids? And it's like, what's the difference between sunscreen and what's the difference between pine tar and spider tack? Like, we're starting to get to that level. But I think what I'm more curious about in the evolution of all this, that press conference with Gerrit Cole was last week, it was this week. This week. Okay. And eventually there will be a sports documentary about the rampant use of spider tack in Major League Baseball. And that press conference is going to be like a dramatic music turning point in the story that's being told about this. But I want to know what's going to be the big break in this. What's going to be the, oh fuck, this just exploded. Like,
there's not going to be.
There has to be. There has to be. Someone is going to get suspended for this. Someone is going to get, like, Major League Baseball is not going to let this continue and like basically have it rubbed in their face. Like, hey, we're doing it. You have you don't have to catch us on video.
Coming.
You have the data to show it.
You're going to start seeing it in the next 7 to 10 days. The next 7 to 10 days, you're going to start seeing umpires actively checking guys. All right.
Sure.
They all have to get on the same page. Because right now, what you're asking, if you're the umpires union, is all right, we send Angel Hernandez out there to go check a shiny forearm on a guy pitching in a night game. What do we do? Well, what if that reliever tells you, yeah, my arm's shiny because I put fucking sunscreen on because I've got a history of melanoma in my family. And when I walked out here today, the sun was still shining. And I'm also aware of UV rays being able to penetrate through and do damage even if there's not direct light. So now you're asking Angel Hernandez to go out there and differentiate between spider tack or sunscreen and rosin combo, sunscreen and resin combo. Like, what is this? Is Angel Hernandez fit for that job? He's not even fit to call fucking balls and strikes. And we're overlooking that. And you're going to now ask him to go out and deduce what kind of fucking substance is on a pitcher's arm. Oh, that sounds like it's going to work out seamlessly. There shouldn't be any issues there. There shouldn't be any questions raised about discrimination or anything like that. That's going to be seamless.
So let me ask you this. If they make an example out of someone, do you think they make an example out of, like, we saw the Gallegos thing, which, I mean, that wasn't even like spider tack. That was fucking pine tar and whatever else. So not even the same thing. But do you think if a 10-game suspension gets handed down for substances being put on the baseball, is it going to be a name?
Stop there. Stop there. First, it depends on who, because
that's what I'm asking. Like, if someone has made an example
of Giovanni Gallegos actually pitched a baseball before the hat was taken, okay, and Giovanni Gallegos was wearing a 10-game suspension, now we're going to have an issue. Now we're going to have a conversation, because that's a reliever who's going to be down for 10 days. 10 days. And they don't have the opportunity to plug somebody else in there.
Correct.
You're like that guy 10 days.
Dead roster.
That's
spot.
a problem. What's that?
It's just a dead roster spot.
And so if that's a starter, well, it's not necessarily that dead roster spot, right? It's a guy that's going to be, you got to move some guys around, shuffle. That is what it is. But you're light a bullpen arm for 10 days. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a big name guy at the end, a leverage guy. That's a problem. So now, so like if a guy's getting suspended, oh, believe that. There's names. Fuck yeah. There's going to be names if that happens. But you got to remember the mechanics of this. Okay. What are we going to be trying to do? Is baseball going to be like waiting in the wings, laying in the cut, just waiting for a pitcher to come out there? And are they going to let him throw that first live pitch and then go and talk to him about it so they can bang him and suspend him and make that example? Or are they going to try to be proactive and preventative and do what they did to Gallegos every time somebody takes the mound and has a question mark? Are they going to stop it and give the opportunity to the team to rectify it before they start suspending guys? That's the question, Jared. What's going to be the move for Major League Baseball? How are they going to handle it in that regard? Are they going to try to be preventative and proactive, or are they going to wait and try to bang guys? Because if they're going to wait and try to bang you, you bet your ass your name is going to be coming across that bottom line. You bet your ass. But that's where, no pun intended, it gets sticky. Because if you come out and you're telling me that my arm is shiny or that my hat is whatever, and you now kick me out of the game, what line did you draw? Like, was my hat full of spider tack? What if it wasn't? Because I don't get to go back out there. I don't get to keep pitching after you've kicked me out of the game and found out that actually wasn't what you thought it was. So do you see how difficult it's going to be to police it? Even though the idea of taking action seems like it's going to be doable, when you take that action, what does it look like then? Like, seriously, like answer that. Angel Hernandez, what's on my arm? I don't fucking know. It just looks abnormal. Okay. But where's the line been drawn? Because it looks abnormal to you, I'm in trouble now?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, yeah, they've got a lot of questions that they have to answer. Earlier, I alluded to there being some bad news. If this already wasn't bad news for you, if you're a Yankee fan, Gerrit Cole, Mike Trout has said that there is no timetable for his return. That fucking sucks because it was already kind of looking like it was going to be semi-lengthy, and now there's no timetable for the best player in Major League Baseball to return to the game. Not that the Angels.
Yeah, thank you. Just go right to the heart of it. Go right to the heart of it, Jared.
Yeah,
why the fuck would Mike Trout be rushing back? Why would he be rushing back?
I get it. I mean, it's not that he needs to rush back to save the Angels season. I got currently 2 games under 500, 6.5 back. I mean, that's a pretty shitty division. I mean, the Oakland A's lead it. So go ahead. What was your take?
Yeah, buddy. Believe that. I think we're starting to see Mike Trout become slightly leaning towards a side of selfishness that I think a lot of us think he should have been displaying a long time ago.
Go on.
I'd love to come back. I'd love to be out there playing. But I also realize that you guys kind of haven't lived up to your end of the bargain that we talked about in terms of surrounding me with go-getters and guys that would be able to compete and put us in a strong position. And Mike Trout can't do anything about the other injuries that have affected the Angels. And he can't do much about the injury that's affecting him right now, except for work as hard as he can to get back. And if he had something to get back to, I believe that's exactly what Mike Trout would be doing. And I'm not telling you that Mike Trout's not busting his ass trying to get back on the field. Mike Trout lives to play baseball, lives to play this game, and wants to be out there more than anybody. But if the writing is what it is on the wall right now, and you're feeling the way you are after Mike Trout, which is clearly not even close to 100%, there's no reason and there is no desire to try to step on this and get back ASAP. For what? And I think it's time that those questions are starting to be asked by the most important dude on that roster.
Yeah.
And that's him. Because at some point in time, we're going to find out just how serious Mike Trout is about just wanting to play the game and not caring about a World Series, not caring about anything else, just wanting to play baseball. Because he had Albert there and he saw a legend turn in to what Albert became without being celebrated with a ring. And Mike Trout now is watching Albert Pujols play baseball in Los Angeles with a World Series squarely in his crosshairs at his age, at his stage, at his level of production. You think Mike Trout is not taking note of that?
Good for him if that's the case. I mean,
that's why I said I want to believe that this is a point in time where we're going to start to see some selfishness from a dude who deserves all of it. He deserves every good break coming his way. He deserves, like, if I could give Mike Trout my calf right now, I fucking would. And I'm a division rival. I just want him back on the field.
Yeah. The whole thing with Mike Trout is that he's been out for weeks now, and I'll be honest, I haven't really noticed. And when Fernando Tatis Jr. was out, it's like, I'm like, fuck, when I put it this way,
you haven't noticed because Ohtani's been doing what he's doing, buddy.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, like, when I'm sitting here, the Red Sox finish at like 10 o'clock, 10:30. And I'm thinking, like, all right, what game am I going to put on the big screen? Like, my default is always the Padres. I'm like, I want to watch Fernando Tatis Jr. And if, like, they played at 3 o'clock that day, I want to put on the Angels, but it's not for Mike Trout. It's for Shohei Ohtani. Like,
damn right it is.
yeah, like I
You're
don't.
damn right it is.
When
Eat your
I'm like
fucking chicken
lining
meat,
up
you
the
bitch.
TVs and there's more games than TVs, well, it's like the Angels are always getting put on, but it's not for Trout, it's for Ohtani.
And that
And
is a indictment is the wrong word, again, because it's not Trout. It is just a example. It's an example of why guys are the face of baseball, or why guys are in the conversation for the face of baseball. It's a beautiful example why. The best player in the game, down and out probably till after the All-Star break. And there's really not a big up in arms type of we're missing this dude, missing seeing him each and every day. Like that's not it. Like we're playing highlight reels on the video board of Fernando Tatis Jr. getting out of the way of a ball that almost hit him in the knee, because he ends up looking like fucking Gumby with his leg flailing, and then does the splits at home plate and then pops up and probably hits a fucking jack. Like,
yeah,
when that dude's not playing, everybody's like, well, damn, I'd love to see something like that because he's going to do something crazy. And for Mike Trout, like Hall of Fame production with Hall of Fame consistency that hasn't been seen ever, just doesn't appeal to baseball fans for whatever reason.
yeah. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. It's like one of those things where they like when you're talking about like a human's face, and it's like what makes an attractive face attractive, and like they're like analyzing it, like what makes, I mean, you can explain
nose.
Yeah, like you can explain why Tatis is exciting to watch and he's must watch.
I'm super into chicks with fetal alcohol syndrome, eyeballs super close to their nose. I'm really into that too.
I can't explain why Mike Trout doesn't do it for me. It's like, well, what do you mean? Like, don't you like? It's like, yeah, of course. Like when he hits homers, it's like, like people, as someone who like shares highlights on a nightly basis, like I know that Mike Trout homers, they do well, but I think it's because Mike Trout in his name is Mike Trout. So people are like, oh, Mike Trout. Yeah, I'll hit retweet on that. I'll hit like on that. But when Tatis hits a homer, people are sharing that, not just because of his name, but just because he hits homers cool. Like Mike Trout doesn't hit homers cool. He hits them far. Like when Mike Trout's in Kansas City and he's hitting home runs in the fountain, like that's fucking cool. Like, but it's not like it's not a choice to hit the ball that far and put it in the fountain.
This? Is the Mike Trout? Excuse me. Is the Mike Trout the fucking Top Golf clip? Is that
was like his most viral clip ever? Yeah,
right. That's the most viewed Mike Trout clip, is him shitting on a golf ball. And you want to know why? It's a combination of the golf ball just disappearing, and
shows
then
his raw power.
You saw Mike Trout interact with his teammates, with his friends. You saw Mike Trout laughing and basically acknowledging his freakiness. Like he shits on that golf ball, watches it, and then turns around and is like, yeah, that was pretty ridiculous. That was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh my God, Mike Trout emotion. Like I bet people almost felt like they sat down and talked to Mike Trout when they saw that clip, because you've never seen those mannerisms or that kind of action from Mike Trout while wearing a baseball uniform.
Never.
You've never seen it.
Never.
He made that ridiculous catch in center field where his fucking ass cheeks are above the outfield wall. And he came down and was like, yeah, solid.
Yeah. I just wish he would loosen up a little bit. Anyways, your boy Chris Davis DFA'd. What becomes of KD?
Nathan,
is this the end of the line?
Man, I think it might be. And it's tough because this is a dude, and I've always said this about KD. He was so unconventional in his approach, and he's just one of those dudes who he gets it done this way. And I don't know that you would ever teach anybody to approach the art of hitting the way that KD has, because I mean, the raw ability to hit the ball out of any ballpark is something that you can't necessarily teach. That's what KD has. And how you get the barrel to the ball is something that you can work on. I think what happened for KD is he got the money in Oakland. And with the money comes responsibility. But then he got hurt very quickly. He got hurt early and was trying to battle through a side injury that, in my opinion, really, really had him take some steps back, because not only is he unconventional when he's healthy, imagine that same approach being dinged up and trying to work around some already unconventional movements and approaches. That can be very tough. And I think that's what happened, is in an effort to try to stay on the field in Oakland, he got into some bad habits that he wasn't able to get himself out of. He goes to Texas, and a lot of people were excited because of the numbers and the production that Katie has in Texas against the Rangers. And I tried to tell people, first thing I said, one, that's against your team, okay? That's against your team. It's not for your team. And two, it's in a different ballpark. It's not the same ballpark.
No, it's not.
So quit thinking that that's just going to, like, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't, and it didn't work that way, and it's not working that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard guys talk about that before. Like JD Martinez talked about how he jammed his ankle in the World Series in 2018. And then at times it was like I think David Ortiz talked about it too, where he hurt his wrist. And because he hurt his wrists in 2008, then going into 2009, he created a loop in his swing because of the injury. And the same thing with JD. He was not on the same swing path because of the injury from the year before. So like stuff like that happens. And, guys, it's correctable, sure. But sometimes in the case of KD, it's not. I hope he lands somewhere. He was fun to watch.
What's tough with him, Gerrit, is there's no defensive home for him.
Right. Yeah.
That's why this hurts even more, is because it's not like, well, he can do this for us defensively, and maybe the offense will come around. Like, that's not the case.
Omaha Steaks. How about we're like a month away from the week off that we get for the 4th of July. I think I'm probably going to do another box of Omaha Steaks for 4th of July.
Yeah, you need to get out the get out and grill assortment, my man.
Yep.
That's got a shit ton for you to throw on the grill. A shit ton. Juicy burgers, chicken titties, not breaded up, plump, juicy grilled chicken titties, baby. They got sides, desserts. They got 4 10-ounce butcher cut New York strips, baby. Mm-hmm. I'm a porterhouse guy. Because you got the New York, you got the filet, you got the combo. I'm down for a good New York if it's done well. And Omaha Steaks does the butcher cuts very, very well. Aged for 30 days as well, so that shit just melts. It's like butter, baby. And that's what we're talking about, because age equals tenderness. That's right. Tender love and care. Shout out to the MILFs out there. Plus, you get 4 free New York strip burgers with your order. Not just the strip steak, Carrabis, the burger, baby. And I'm telling you right now, the Get Out and Grill assortment box is selling out fast. Right now, the package is 59% off. That's right, 59% off. Not quite 69% off, which would have been nice, but it's 59% off. And it's got 20 entrees, like I told you, guaranteed to love each and every item that we went over. And Omaha Steaks isn't just steak, right? It's not just meat. It's the best steak of your life, the best meat of your life. So I need you right now to visit omahasteaks.com. You're going to punch in the keyword starting 9, and we're going to get you ready to grill hopefully this weekend. But what you should be gearing up for is Father's Day. You need something to get Padre. This right here, this is your ticket to bliss. Why? You're going to put a smile on the old man's face. Oh, you're thinking of me, boy. I love you. Always have. But not as much as the kid who was better than you in Little League, but I still love you. Now you're going to get to enjoy his hard work on the grill. So it's a win-win, double-edged sword. Look at you killing 2 birds, 1 stone. It's because you're smart, and you've gone to omahasteaks.com. You entered the keyword starting 9, and you've gotten yourself 59% off the Get Out and Grill assortment.
How do you not do that when you have a promo code for 59% off?
I mean, that's 9% over half off.
Go feed your family. Omaha Steaks, feed your family. All right, let's get into the Mount Rushmore. The Marlins. So we were talking to Dr. Claw before the podcast about which direction we were going to go in. And I'm going in a direction that is quite unpredictable. I'm going off the beaten path.
Yeah, I'm looking
for my Marlins Mount Rushmore. I mean, the field, there's lots of names to pick from. Like there are a lot of guys. Like when I was talking about, the Red Sox Mount Rushmore, and then that second tier, like the second tier of the Red Sox Mount Rushmore is very difficult to pick. There's a lot of guys in that second tier where it's like you could make a case for 15, 20 guys who belong in that same second tier. With the Marlins, I feel like their entire franchise is second tier in terms of like harsh. The Mount Rushmore. Like there's no like this guy was one of the greatest players of all time and he played his entire career with the Marlins. Like they have a lot of like, hey, this guy spent some time here and he was really good. So let's put him in that conversation. Like they don't have like a Stan Musial. They don't have a Ted Williams. They don't have a fucking Mickey Mantle. Like there's not that guy, like a Bob Gibson. They don't have that guy for that franchise. Like who would you say is that guy? Like who is like the clear can't have a Marlins Mount Rushmore without this guy?
I don't know that they have that guy.
Right. So I'm not trying to insult the Marlins, their franchise. No. I'm just saying that they don't have that guy.
I'm looking for the note sheet. If Jay
it's a separate email.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm going to need Dr. because I got 14 separate fucking emails. I need Dr. Claw to send me that email again. I approach this like that exercise on Twitter where you see the logo of a team.
That's what I did for this one as well.
Who's the first name you think of? That's kind of how I went with this because there's a couple guys, or there's a few guys where you say, if you're part of both world championships, it's tough to not give you the nod. But this is where I think a little nostalgia comes into play and the romance of like who you were in love with, who you liked, who you enjoyed. So
I feel like this is going to be the first Mount Rushmore where we have we're going to have half of the same. We've either done 4 of the same. There's been times where we've done 3 of the same, but I think this is going to be the first one where we only have 2 of the same.
Really?
Yep.
I mean, do we just drop the first 2 right off the bat?
Jeff Conine.
Okay.
Dontrell Willis.
Train.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Who are your next 2?
This is where, oh man, this is where it gets, because like I had, is Livan Hernandez the guy that you've been thinking about?
He was like my 5th. So will not make the cut.
See, Gary Sheffield's the guy that I kicked around.
It's not going to make mine.
I mean, there's a shit ton of names.
Who's your next 2, Dallas?
I don't know. Who are your next 2? I'm still looking for this fucking list here.
I mean, Stanton has a case. Hanley has a case. But it's like more like Stanton will spend his career with more seasons with another organization than the Marlins. Hanley, I mean, like, yeah, I think Hanley has a case. Beckett has a case, but he, like Beckett probably, I mean, Beckett will probably be associated with both. He's one of those guys that where he went to Boston, he went to Miami, and he made an impact in both places. Like no one's going to forget Game 6 of the World Series in 2003 against the Yankees. He was dominant, but he also shoved it up the Rockies' ass and the Indians' ass in 2007 for the Red Sox as well. Miguel Cabrera, like everyone's going to know him as a Tiger. Uncle Cliffy. Like
What about him?
Mike Lowell won a World Series with the Marlins, but yeah, he also was a World Series MVP with the Red Sox. So, I mean, your Mount Rushmore has to be made up of guys where it's like, when I think of this individual, I think of the Marlins. Jeff Conine. Renteria. I mean, I think of the Cardinals. I think of the Giants. I mean, wasn't he the World Series MVP? No.
Yeah. 03 got the knock.
No. Was he the World Series MVP for the Giants in 2010?
Yes. What did I want to say? I don't know.
It's either him or fucking Juan Uribe. Edgar Renteria. World Series MVP. He does have a World Series MVP, but what year was it?
This is incredible. Like, there's no
MVP 2010. Yeah, okay. He was the World Series MVP for the Giants, not for the Marlins. So just by that, it's like I'm taking off Renteria. I got to take off Mike Lowell. They were World Series MVPs for other teams. Livan Hernandez, very strong case. Gary Sheffield, I mean, he was all over the place. Kevin Brown. Miguel Cabrera is going to be known as a Tiger. Give me your next two. Who are they?
I was inclined to go with the way that you went as well. I know one of yours.
Jose Fernandez.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of the Marlins, I think of Jose Fernandez. I do.
And there's
well, he's like my favorite pitcher of like all time, besides like non-Red Sox.
There's no wrong answer there for Jose Fernandez, and that's part of the, that's part of the romance in going through this exercise, and that's why, like the World Series winners, that's why I dropped a Livan, because
you should make that pick then, because I think he deserves it. He's just not making mine. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, he did win all 5 games he started during the '97 postseason when they eventually won the World Series. Where's Kevin Brown at?
Like when I think of Kevin Brown and I think of him like punching a phone and breaking his hand for the Yankees in 2004. Fucking idiot.
So we've got Conine.
Yep.
We've got Train.
Yep.
I think I'm going Livan Hernandez.
Okay. Jose and Livan Hernandez for you.
I don't know that anybody else. Oh, I don't know. What about Luis Castillo?
Yep.
3-time All-Star.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of accolades there. Also a member of the 2003 World Series winner.
So are you submitting Conine, D-Train, Jose, and Livan? Is that your final answer?
No. Because God, man, it's tough not to have Stanton in there.
It's not that tough. He's going to spend most of his career somewhere else. Kind of hard to be on that Mount Rushmore.
I don't know. What are your 4?
You can't take my 4th.
I'm not taking your 4th. What? Right. Like I thought about throwing a Juan Pierre in there.
Juan Pierre's a good one.
I thought that just because I loved that dude. Loved the way he played.
I feel like some people listening know where I'm going to go for my 4th.
I don't know. Who's your 4th?
Jeff Conine,
mm-hmm.
Dontrell Willis,
mm-hmm.
Jose Fernandez,
mm-hmm.
and Marlins man. I mean, you think of the Marlins. I mean, like, tell me you don't think of Marlins man. Like, you do.
I don't. No.
You do.
I don't.
You definitely do. Marlins man.
I don't. I honestly, if I'm being real, like, let's be real. I haven't thought about that dude in 2 years.
Marlins man is on my Mount Rushmore from the Miami
Out of sight,
Marlins.
out of mind. Yeah, you don't have to worry about me stealing Marlins, man.
Is Derek Jeter on the Marlins Mount Rushmore?
I mean, I don't see why he can't be at some point in time. So I'm going Conine, Train, probably Levon, and probably Jose. I thought about going Josh Johnson.
What?
It just, because that's where it gets like. Do you want to just give it to the guys that have won championships there?
No. I mean, like, if that's the exercise, like, who do you think of when you think of the Marlins? Like, I don't think of the Marlins when I think of Stanton anymore. I don't think of the Marlins with Josh Beckett. I don't think of the Marlins with Miggy. I don't think of them with Gary Sheffield.
It's what's tough about the Jose Fernandez thing, not tough about making the decision, is, it's because of what we think he could have been, what he already was, and what we think he could have been. And, you kind of like Jose's locker, staying in the locker room. Like, if we're being honest with ourselves now, and we're reflecting,
by the way,
what's that?
They fucked that up.
Well, do you think, and here's the thing. Do you think his locker being present in today's clubhouse?
It's not. You don't remember that? They lied.
No, I do. That's what I'm getting at. This is my point here is, do you think that would be a good thing? Or do you think that would be a constant reminder, and that reminder would change from day to day? It would remind you of what you don't have. It would remind you of what you could have had. And it'll remind you of who you're not if you're sitting next to that locker. And for me, those are a lot of, as much as it would be nice to be able to keep that memory alive, that can be done in a way that doesn't impede on the progress of that clubhouse becoming a cohesive unit together. And it's tough if you've got this memory that you don't really know how to behave around, and that's why I think the way it was handled, horrible, but the actual idea of moving on from the locker being there, I think in my mind is a good thing.
Yeah, they just shouldn't have promised that they weren't going to touch it and then been like, you know what, we're going to touch it. Like, I think what they should have done is like cut it out and put it in the Hall of Fame or something like that.
Well, you could put that right when you enter, right when you enter the ballpark, you could have it right there. So people could come in, take a picture, stand by it, see it. It would be, that's what would make Jose Fernandez's presence on the Mount Rushmore for the organization.
Yeah.
Even more so.
I saw it. So I think it was maybe after 17, before 18 is when they went back on it. So I think it was like September 2016 that he died. And then after the 27th, they kept it there for the 2017 season. And I went to Marlins Park to do like a tour, and it was in November. So it was the off season. Everything was cleared out of the clubhouse except for his locker. So I got to actually see it just by itself there. And yeah, I think it would have been cool if they had preserved it and just put it as an exhibit in the ballpark somewhere. Like if you wanted to have like a little Jose area, because originally they were going to do a statue, and then they found out the details of what happened the night that he died, and they were like, all right, no statue. How about like a little plaque? And then that's what they did. So it sucks. He was one of my favorite pitchers to watch, and I think it would I think he does, at the very least, deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore, given he'll always be a Marlin. And I'll always be a body armor guy. Today's athletes deserve more than just a sports drink, no matter their game. With potassium-packed electrolytes, antioxidants, and B vitamins, plus no artificial sweeteners, flavors, or dyes, Body Armor Sports Drink provides hardworking hydration and more. From baseball's Mike Trout to basketball's James Harden to Barstool's very own Jared Carrabis, you know that I'm an orange mango guy, always. Body Armor helps today's athletes stay on top of their game. Body Armor available for purchase in-store and on Amazon right now. We got Mincy coming up right now. We got to do some
Super Regionals,
baseball.
baby. The Super Regionals are on deck. Carrabis and my Texas Tech Red Raiders will be hosting a bunch of fucking nerds from California out in West Texas. And we got a man by the name of Ben Mintz, who, as you put it, is boots on the ground college baseball soldier here at Barstool Sports. And we've got some lines for you. We've got some insight as to who these teams are going to be trotting out there for their super regionals, hopefully giving you some info and putting you on a path to really enjoy this year's not only super regionals, but eventually Omaha as well.
All right, we got Mincy here. Ben Mintz is boots on the ground right now. This is probably like the first year, that we've paid attention to college baseball. I think it's fucking awesome. And I know that it's near and dear to your heart. I see the Ole Miss across the chest right now. Tell the folks, where are you right now? And what is it that you're hoping to accomplish with these boots that are on the ground?
Well, right now I'm taping this from this closet I'm living in Hell's Kitchen right now. To be transparent, I've been in an Airbnb for about 7 months since I've been here. But when I came to Barstool Sports, look, I feel like I was hired to help build our South and SEC presence. That was a big thing. And man, the South is nuts about college baseball. And I think the big reason is because, you look at states like Louisiana and Arkansas and Mississippi, there's no pro teams in those states. So Arkansas and LSU and Ole Miss and State, those are the major league teams for their fans. And so you feel that. You see that with Tennessee right now too. You just feel that crazy passion that, obviously y'all get being, especially Jared, in New England for the Red Sox. And so I think it's a different dynamic. And the SEC's been crazy about college baseball for a while, but I love seeing it getting big in the nation. And Dallas, I know you played for Texas Tech. They got a phenomenal program. They're about to make it back to Omaha for the fourth or fifth time in the last 7 or 8 years. Tim Tadlock just signed a lifetime contract. He's built a monster. You got all the schools in Texas care a ton. The South, the SEC, ACC's really good. California and the West Coast has really talented teams, maybe not quite the fan support, but it's an electric sport. I mean, the metal bat, these games will be 8-0 and they're just starting. It's like every game.
That's how it goes. There's back and forth. There's blow for blow. It's punch and counter punch. And to your point, you get a great mix of fan bases. The California teams, as you said, Mincy, not as raucous and riled up as some of the other squads coming from Texas Tech. I understand what those Tech hecklers are capable of. They will absolutely shred you. You could walk in there 6'3", 230, All-American, top 10 pick hopeful, and the Tech hecklers will have you in the corner sobbing by your lonesome. They will dig in very deep. So I am excited for that reason alone, and I'm glad that you are here to kind of facilitate that, because I have just been a voice of experience, a voice of folks that listen to this podcast. You have to understand how exciting college baseball actually is. You need to wrap your arms around it. And now that you're here, Mincy, you can help do that. And we do have some incredible super regional matchups already. And I'm going to go through the list here. We've got Vanderbilt squaring off against East Carolina. We got the Texas Tech University Red Raiders squaring off against the Stanford Cardinal. I got some bets with some nerds in the Oakland A's organization who are nerd alumni for that one. We got NC State against the number 1 seeded Arkansas. Ole Miss, your Ole Miss, the Rebs against the University of Arizona Wildcats. Virginia against DBU, as you outlined, Mincy. We've got Mississippi State, Notre Dame, Tennessee Vols against LSU, and South Florida against the Longhorns. So out of all of these matchups, Mincy, I know that you have put together some lines. You've got some numbers on these guys. I'll go ahead and let you kind of take it from there.
Okay, well, I'm going to run through them. First of all, my vision, I want to mention this, what my vision for college baseball is at Barstool Sports. As we get the app in more and more states through the country, I think that the future of it, like everybody's fans of their own team. You know, you've got all these people that like, I'll watch every Ole Miss game, but getting lines on it is going to be what really grows it, because then people will watch all the games. And I'm getting messages from all over the country saying, and I got one last week that said, I didn't even know Dallas Baptist was a college. And because you put a bet on them when they hit a grand slam in the 7th against Oregon State down 5-2, I was dancing around my living room. And that's what I'm going for with how exciting it is. Well, so we're looking at this super regional matchup. We'll go in order. Vandy, the number 4 national seed, 2019 defending national champions. Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, the best 1-2 punch in college baseball. The only one I could consider that was like it was Gerrit Cole and Bauer on the 2013 UCLA team that somehow won the national title despite having a 220 team batting average, which is one of the crazier stats. But Rocker and Leiter, Rocker 12-3, 265 ERA, 144 Ks and 98 1/3. Jack Leiter 9-3, 246, 146 Ks and 89 innings pitched. Should be the number 1 and 2 picks. Brutal to face these guys in a 2 out of 3 super regional. I mean, you have to, if you're East Carolina, who does have some talent, Connor Norby's a phenomenal middle infielder. They have an ace in Gavin Williams. I like Cliff Godwin as a coach, but you got to try to steal one 3-1 against Rocker or Leiter. But if you can get to game 3, Vandy's number 3 is a 17-year-old named Christian Harris, who looks like Kumar Rocker's twin brother. Throws 97, but he's still 17 years old and should be a senior in high school. So that's really East Carolina's only chance. The line I'm seeing on it is Vandy minus 500, East Carolina plus 335. I can't risk $500 to win 100.
No.
I just don't think there's a value there. So I'm going to stay off it. I do have Vandy at 9-1 to win the whole thing for before the tournament.
I like that. I would agree with that. And I don't think East Carolina is really in a position to steal anything at that point, because you got to win one of those first 2 games, Mincy, to get to a game 3. And I don't know that that's going to happen between that double-headed monster between Rocker and Leiter.
Yeah, one other Vandy guy I want to mention, too, to keep an eye on. They've got this outfielder, the center fielder is their leadoff hitter named Enrique Bradfield. Hit 359, 46 steals to lead college baseball. He's a freshman.
Ooh.
He's one of the most – he's like Juan Pierre's clone.
Oh,
I mean, he's literally like lefty. You see him out there.
That's a hell of a name.
Yeah, one of the most like natural leadoff hitters I've ever seen. And he's 46 of 52 stealing. When he gets on base, he scores every time. He puts so much pressure on a defense. They've got Dominic Keegan, a great hitting first baseman, and then they've got an outfielder named Isaiah Thomas. What a great baseball name. He hit the grand slam in the final game against Georgia Tech in extra innings. So those are guys to watch on Vandy.
All right, from there we got Tech and well, I don't know what you have in front of you. I'm just going here.
No, you've got the right order
on the bracket. Yeah. So up next is Texas Tech, an 8 seed, taking on Stanford, a 9 seed, and that is going down at the Law in West Texas. Dan Law Field. Mincy, what do you got?
Man, my thing is, you know a lot more about Lubbock at Texas Tech than I do. But you don't mess with that team in that ballpark, man.
No,
That's
sir.
a phenomenal home field advantage. You mentioned the Tech hecklers. West Texas it's kind of its own thing, a little bit. It's kind of a crackerjack, smaller ballpark. And to me, I was surprised by the line on this. Texas Tech's minus 134 in this. I thought they should be a bigger favorite. I'm on Texas Tech here. Tim Tadlock just signed a lifetime contract. They're used to getting to Omaha now. They've won the Big 12 3 times the last 5 years. They expect to be here. The moment's not too big. I think they got it done, and this is one of my best bets on the Super Regionals is Texas Tech minus 134.
Well, they got a couple All-Americans there, and to your point about the Dan Law Field, the setting, the environment, it's windy. It can get windy, and it can make that ballpark very small at times, and I think that's where the advantage plays to Tech is offensively. They can sort of gear their swings and they can gear what they're trying to do towards that environment, something they can become aware of before the other team does. And I think the pitching staff has the ability to pitch around stuff like that. You understand where to attack, where to go. So I absolutely am all over that Tech. That's a value bet, especially, what'd you say, 130? Where are they at?
Yeah, they're on minus 134. And then I want to mention the middle infield combo Texas Tech has. Jace Young, whose brother plays for the Rangers.
That's right.
He's hitting like 350 something with 21 bombs at second base. Cal Conley at shortstop is like 340 with 15 homers. Best middle infield combo in the country. They don't have any like superstar pitchers, but they do have some solid guys. I think they know how to win at home. On the Stanford side, they have a good ace pitcher in Brandon Beck, a solid closer in Zach I think it's Gresh. Their lineup is more deep, but no stars. They were the second best team in the Pac-12. They got through a pretty decent West Coast regional, beating Cal Irvine in the final, but I'm on Texas Tech here pretty big.
I love it. I love it, Mintzy, and I'm with you, baby. Get your damn guns up, people. Next, we got the Wolfpack, NC State taking on the Razorbacks. Sweet. What do you got, Mintzy?
So this one is a little okay. So basically, when the NCAA tournament odds came out in the Barstool Sportsbook, it opened where Arkansas was plus 750 to win it, which I thought was great value at the time. You know, Arkansas ran through the SEC. They've only lost 11 games. It's something like 46-11. Kevin Cox for Arkansas is having the best year I've ever seen from a closer, even better than Houston Street at Texas back in the day.
Oh, damn.
The dude's 12-0 with like 11 or 12 saves and a .7 ERA. He throws his slider is the Mariano Rivera cutter of college baseball. Nobody can touch this thing. They put him in their do or die. Nebraska pushed him to the brink in the regional, and they played a do or die final. They put Cox in the freaking third inning, down 2-0, and he pitched 7 scoreless out of the bullpen. They put him in on these SEC weekends. He pitches 3 to 4 innings on Fridays and Sundays. This dude's got a complete rubber arm. He's the college baseball pitcher of the year. Arkansas's got 5 guys with double-digit homers, an incredibly deep lineup. They got a good ace pitcher in Wicklander. If there is a weakness on Arkansas, it's the depth in the starting rotation shaky. You see a lot of games where they're down 2-3-0, 3-1 after 5 innings, and then they come back a lot late. But this crowd's phenomenal at Baum Stadium. But I will say this, NC State is no freaking joke. They started out 1-8 in ACC play and rallied all the way back to finish second in the regular season. Then they get second in the conference tourney, and then they rolled through the Ruston, Louisiana regional, defeating Louisiana Tech, the 1 seed, 22-10 in their 2 games. And you look at NC State, they've got 2 really good outfielders, left fielder Johnny Butler, hitting .389 with 12 homers, and center fielder Tyler McDonough, hitting .351 with 15 homers. But y'all know baseball is a funny sport. And when you get confidence and momentum going together, damn near anything's possible. So NC State's plus 5-1 to win this regional. I'm not necessarily taking that, but I don't think Arkansas is just the all-time lock that people think. NC State's hot. And for people that did bet Arkansas to win it all, NC State's 50-1 right now. I would put a tiny flyer on NC State as like an insurance thing in case something crazy happens.
Just a little backer, a little support, just a little Roman swipe right there, Mintzy, to maybe extend the life on that thing.
Yeah. Dave Portnoy has been interacting with me on Twitter about college baseball. He bet $10K on Arkansas to win it all too. So
on Arkansas, good for him.
Yeah, he bet Arkansas to win it all. And I liked it when it was plus 750, but it got bet down to 6-1 and then 5-1 before the games went off. And now it's plus 180 and all the value. You can't be betting anybody at plus 180 in baseball. Y'all know how crazy baseball this season is. So if you got Arkansas early at plus 750, good for you, because all the value way gone now.
Next, we've got Ole Miss and the Wildcats. That's going down in Arizona. And for Ole Miss, for Arizona, what do we need to see out of these 2 clubs for them to make a push to find themselves deeper into this run in Omaha?
So Arizona has the best hitting team in college baseball. They've got 7 guys hitting .330 or higher. Whew. I mean, Jacob Berry, their freshman's the best. He's a DH. He's hitting .364 with 15 bombs. Their offense is phenomenal. You know, they've got a good home field in that desert air. These are going to be the late night games. This is the only super regional west of the central time zone. So this is the freaks come out at night, late night, going to get wild. Ole Miss has an excellent hitting team too. They led the SEC in batting average. Ole Miss's path to win this. The line, Arizona's minus 127. Ole Miss is plus 102. So kind of feels like it could go either way. Ole Miss has an ace pitcher in Doug Nikhazy, who's phenomenal. He's 10-2 with a 2.25 ERA, lefty. The path to win is you have to win when he pitches, and you got to win the other game 16-13. I mean, because Ole Miss has a good closer, a good ace, but pitching depth is kind of lacking behind those guys. Arizona's going to score a ton of runs. Arizona's pitching staff does not blow me away. They got some solid guys, but nothing spectacular. So I expect this to just get freaking wild in the desert. I think Ole Miss has a shot. I expect Nikhazy to pitch game 2 Saturday. So you got to steal one Friday or Sunday. I think this thing's going 3 and going to be really wild. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know, with my first year covering Barstool in Omaha, Ole Miss getting there would just be, I mean, I can't even imagine something that would be better.
Oh, it would be electric. Well, give me the numbers, Mincy. Give me the numbers. I need to know where to put this money at, because the way you're talking right now, I feel like there might be some value in an Ole Miss.
Man, I don't know. Ole Miss has such a bad history in these super regionals. They got through in 2014, beating ULM.
It's time to change shit, Mincy.
Let's
go.
No,
Switch
that's
your
true.
attitude
That's
up.
true. But it's they've done one. I mean, the Mike Bianco's been there 21 years, has done a phenomenal job, but only one Omaha trip. I'm staying away and just pulling with my heart.
Whoa. Let me ask you this. How many regionals, how many supers has Ole Miss been in since Ben Mintz has been employed at Barstool?
Okay, good point. Good point. Zero on that front, but I think.
Well, are you afraid of success, Mintz? That's what I'm going to ask you. Are you fucking afraid of success? Do you have the balls, Mincy? Do you have the fucking balls?
Laying down the gauntlet, is first fucking starting 9 appearance. You're going to ask him this question?
I got the nuts. I mean, if I'm going to get called out like that, I got to show faith to my boys. Ole Miss does have a deep lineup. Like I said, Doug McKay's is a super ace pitcher. They can get this done. It's a weird long, super regional home field advantage is a big thing. Cross country in Arizona in the desert air. So it's a tough one. So my thing is, if Ole Miss was a little bigger underdog, like plus 130, plus 140, I'd like it. At plus 102, I mean, I think it's a
just not enough.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Well, that's all right. So you heard it here first. Ben Mintz has zero faith in the Rebs. That's unfortunate.
Damn.
Virginia DBU coming up next. Dallas Baptist. And I'm rolling with DBU here strictly because my dear good friend, Boog Shiambi, bought me a Dallas Baptist University hat when we were in Omaha my very first time. So for no other reason other than I am a proud owner of a Dallas Baptist University hat, will I be rolling with DBU. Mincy, what do we got here?
This is a dead pick 'em. Both teams are like minus 113 on the sports book. Yeah. This is in Columbia, South Carolina, too. So there's no home field really for either team. Now, looking at Dallas Baptist, you got a team that can hit the crap out of the baseball. They've made 7 straight regional finals. They're very consistent, steady program. They're led by second baseman Jackson Glenn, 351, 19 homers. They got a really good leadoff hitter and center fielder Jace Grady, 343, 15 steals. And here's a great baseball name. The right fielder's name is River Town, 329, 10 homers, 20 steals. They have a good ace pitcher in Rhett Kuba, 6-1, 281 ERA. So they're really solid. I feel like they put themselves in a lot of tough positions. Still haven't broken through to get to Omaha. On the Virginia side of it, Virginia's got a really good pitching staff, but they're not a good hitting team. They've got only 2 guys hitting over 300. But they do have a hell of an ace pitcher in Andrew Abbott, who's 8-6 with 282 ERA and 144 Ks. Their closer, Steven Schott, has kind of become a cult hero. He looks like Kenny Powers a little bit.
Yes.
He has 252 ERA. He came out, they hit a walk-off in the 10th inning to beat Old Dominion, and that he came out and pitched 3 1/3. Really did a good job there. You look at Virginia, they won the national title in 2014. And I feel like they kind of started slow in the ACC. They ended up as a 3 seed in the tournament, but the confidence and momentum thing, I mentioned the NC States and play with them. I would slightly lean Virginia here, but I really don't have a play. I've got that Dallas Baptist 151 flyer. That's kind of where I'm at on this one.
And I do think that the lack of home field advantage probably plays a part in this, and I think that evens things out. You talk about the lack of hitting on the Virginia side. I don't know how much value there is. What'd you say the numbers were? What do we got?
So in the line, it's dead pick'em. And I feel like it can go either way. Neither team has a home field. I mean, Virginia seems like a team that's built to win in the postseason, being like a pitching team with a head coach that's won a national championship. They got an ace starter and a good closer and a lot of momentum. So because of that, I guess I'd slightly lean them, but it's not one of my plays.
Well, and that's where college baseball becomes tough because we're talking about a couple metal bats, right? We're talking about metal bats there. So whether or not your offense gets stifled by the good pitching, college baseball, it's just a little different, just a little bit of a crapshoot there. And up next, we've got Mississippi State.
This is the one I got a lot of thoughts on, boys.
Mississippi State taking on the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. What do we got, Mincy? That's going down. Where's that? That's going down in South Bend, ain't it?
No, it's in Starkville. So that's what's interesting about this one. Mississippi State's the 7 national seed. Notre Dame's 10. but Notre Dame should be top 8. They went 22-8 in the tough ACC, won the league outright, and that's a tough baseball league.
Did they get hosed? Is it fair to say they got hosed?
I did. I thought they should have been top 8. And you look at this Notre Dame team, they've got this Greek first baseman named Nico Cabanas, big old Greek dude. Set the all-time school record in homers this year. He's hit 309 with 21 homers, 62 RBIs. They've got a really deep lineup. They've got 2 strong starting pitchers, John Michael Bertrand and Tanner Talib, who both are under 3 ERAs, 8-2 and 7-1. They've got the potential coach of the year. And when you look at Notre Dame, what they did to their regional last week, you don't even see in Little League. They played 3 games. They won 10-0, 26-3, and 14-2. This is friggin' NCAA tournament. And I think right now, I think it's the Northern thing. You know, Notre Dame has been to Omaha before under Paul Maneri back in the day, but I don't think that anybody respects these Northern teams. I think Notre Dame is freaking really good. People are sleeping on them. They're 18-1 to win it all. I think that has value.
Ooh, I like that.
I just think they're the best team in a really tough ACC. And I just think because they're not a traditional power, people are sleeping on them. They're plus 130 in this series. Mississippi State, always really, really strong. Chris Lamonis does a phenomenal job. Really good 1-2 starting pitching combo of Christian McLeod, who's a lefty with a super big hook, curveball, Will Badnarik. Their closer, Landon Sims, one of the top closers in college baseball. Not the best offense. Tanner Allen, really good. But to me, Hail State's got the great home field advantage to do. It's the nicest ballpark. They got the crazy cowbells. But when you look at the State team, they did really good beating bad teams this year. They've struggled when they played up the top competition. Cheer for old Notre Dame. They get it done. Plus 130 underdog. Get Hail State the hell out of here. Let's go.
I am with you, Mitch, because I tell you what, buddy, when my Texas Tech Red Raiders squared off against those Mississippi State Bulldogs back in the 04 regional at Georgia Tech, I put a fucking muzzle on those Bulldogs and sent them packing to the pound. And there is no reason the Fighting Irish aren't geared up to do the exact same damn thing. Tennessee, LSU, Vols, Tigers. Oh, that one. What now we're getting into the atmosphere, Mincy. Now we're talking raucous crowd. Now we're talking beer chucking, cussing, everything going on in the stands. These two teams have traveling circuses for fan bases.
They do. And this is one I was so excited LSU beat Oregon because as a Barstool guy, we can't lose on either one of these fan bases going to Omaha. Either one's going to bring a ton of people and we'll do a ton for the atmosphere. So this is a fascinating matchup with a lot of dynamics. So the second week of the SEC this year, Tennessee swept LSU in Knoxville, but there was all kinds of controversy. Tennessee had 2 walk-offs. LSU was leading one game in the 9th, and it got suspended on a real sketchy lightning delay and finished the next day, and Tennessee came back and won. Paul Maneri, LSU's head coach, has already announced his retirement after 39 years. This is the win-1 for the Gipper. We saw this 2 years ago with Mike Martin at Florida State, when Florida State snuck in as one of the last teams in the field and beat LSU actually in the Super and made it to Omaha. LSU feels really similar to that. These Maneri teams are known to peak in the postseason, and keep your eye on a couple guys for LSU. They've got a superstar right fielder freshman named Dylan Cruz, who people project top 5 in the 2023 draft. They got a really good first baseman freshman in Trey Morgan. Ace pitcher Landon Marceau also has a really good curveball. Going to pitch Friday. Problem with LSU, they don't have a deep lineup. They've got a lot of holes 6 through 9, so they put a lot of pressure on their top guys to produce. Gavin Dugas, their number 3 hitter, went nuts in the Eugene Regional. Tennessee's been the biggest story in college baseball this year. Tony Vitello, former top assistant for Van Horn in Arkansas, a crazy character. These are uncharted heights for them. They made Omaha in 2005. They've never hosted a super regional. They won the SEC East over Vandy. They finished second in the SEC tourney. And you look at this Tennessee team, deep lineup, no real superstars hitting the ball. They've got a good closer in Sean Hunley. They've got 3 good starters. They're kind of more a sum of the overall parts team than they are a superstar laden, like high draft pick kind of team. The atmosphere at Lindsey Nelson is going to be crazy. I expect it to be super wild, but I'm telling y'all, LSU's plus 285 on the Barstool Sportsbook. I grew up in Louisiana. I've seen this shit my entire life. LSU knows how to pull more stuff out of their ass in crazy situations than any school I've ever seen. Tennessee, I think this is a high-pressure spot for them. They're dealing with a new thing. LSU, huge upset, 3 games in a while when to get back to Omaha. Paul Maneri, the destiny, get back to Omaha before he retires. I'm calling it.
So Mintzy likes the Tigers at plus 285
Great price.
against
Great
Tony
price.
V and the Vols. Wow, Tony V's got those boys excited. He's got those boys playing good baseball. He's got them geared up for one of the biggest moments of their young careers, their young lives. Mintzy, 285 for the Tigers, folks. I don't know. Let me know whether or not you're going to be on that. I might have to.
No, I'm on it. The one. So to summarize, the one I'm on: LSU, Notre Dame, and Texas Tech. The three I'm really on.
Oh well, you should be. You should be. And to cap it off, to bring it all to an end, we've got South Florida against UT, the University of Texas. Texas, the 2 seed. Mintzy, talk to me about this matchup here. It's the last one.
South Florida is the total Cinderella at the ball. They weren't supposed to even sniff the NCAA tournament, and they got hot in the American Athletic Conference tournament and ran through it and won it. And then all hell broke loose in the Gainesville, Florida regional. Florida was real sketchy this year. It wasn't one of their better teams. Miami wasn't as good as basically Florida and Miami weren't as good as their brand names this year. And South Florida, as a 4 seed, won that Gainesville regional. They actually beat number 3 seed South Alabama in the final. South Florida was 15-1 to win that regional last week. Wins it. They're a monster underdog here. They're 8-1. And that's because South Florida's got a good third baseman named Carmine Lane, 315, 11 homers. They have a good ace starting pitcher named Jack Jaziak. He's only 6-7 because he wasn't getting run support, but he has a 2.89 ERA. But they're really the Cinderella. Texas, David Pierce, former Tulane coach, third year, rebuilding them back to Augie Urito, all the promise and tradition they've had. The thing about this Texas bunch, they've got the 3 ace starters, and you don't see that in college baseball a lot. You see teams that have got that number 1. You see some teams that have 1 and 2. Texas, Pete Hansen, 9-1, 184 ERA. Ty Madden, 7-4, 259, 110 Ks, projected top 5 and top 10 high draft pick. Keep your eye on him. And then Tristan Stevens, their Sunday guy, 10-3, a 277 ERA. So you got 3 guys under 3 ERA, and then they've got a DH and Ivan Melendez hitting 330 with 12 homers. To me, having the 3 strong starters will make them special. They're a massive favorite. I think the Longhorns won't roll them all year, even though South Florida's been a good story.
And do we have did you drop the line there?
Man, well, Texas, you got to lay $2,000 to win 100. I damn sure ain't doing that in no baseball.
No.
I mean, college baseball, you can win 2 games. I still don't know that South Florida, even at 8-1, has value, though. I know that they're a great story and they are hot, so you never know. But just Texas having that 1-2-3 starting pitching, the atmosphere is going to be raucous at the dish. I think we're going to see both Texas and Texas Tech represent the Big 12 next week out in Omaha.
I would agree with you, Mintzy. That was an incredible rundown of the super regional matchups, giving you every note, every reason to think about why and where your money is going to go, where it's going to go. We gave you the layout on the fan bases that are going to make this an experience that you will not want to miss out on. Whether or not you have the opportunity to get out to Omaha is one thing. You will have a TV, you will have a device at your disposal. So I implore you, please check in, tune in, stay locked in to these regionals, because what Omaha is going to have in store is going to be nothing short of amazing. And it starts right here with these clubs that our man Ben Mintz has just laid out for us.
The Omaha thing this year, too, I think could be even more special than normal, because look what's happening in sports coming out of COVID. You saw the PGA Championship with Phil, 135K people at the Indy 500. I think Omaha is going to be a freaking party and a half this year, and especially because the big fan base is Texas, Texas Tech, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Ole Miss still in it, LSU, Tennessee. The fan bases that are crazy about college baseball are all still in this thing. And so I think it could get wild. We're very lucky to have a Penn property at Ameristar Council Bluffs that has a very nice sports book. It's in Iowa, only 5 minutes over the bridge. We're going to be doing all kinds of stuff at that sports book. I mean, I've never done the College World Series in Omaha. I'm literally just salivating at the thought. I can't wait to get out there. It starts next Saturday.
Mintzy is going to turn into a puddle. As somebody who has been there, my man, and experienced everything that Omaha has to offer, you are going to be a kid in a candy store, and I cannot wait for the content you drum up, my man. Mintzy, thanks for taking the time. We know you got shit to do. We'll catch you on Pick Central, big dog. This is the first, but it will not be your last appearance here.
Hey, look, I really just want to reiterate how much I appreciate y'all having me on. I've got so much respect for what y'all do, and when I came to Barstool, I thought this college baseball thing, I know y'all are both passionate about it. I just saw it as a wide open lane that people are so passionate about in the South. And it really means a lot to me that y'all are helping embrace it. Thank y'all.
Well, let's
Hell
go.
yeah,
Pedal to the
Mintzy.
metal, motherfucker.
Have fun. Remember to enjoy it. I know you're down there working hard, but remember to enjoy it.
Oh man, I will. It's just I love it. The sports book thing, man. It's being able to gamble on it. It takes it up to the next level. And by next year, we're gonna have the app in Louisiana, and then I think we're trying to get the app in Mississippi. And when we can get it in the South, everybody's gonna fire on it. This is gonna become a big thing. So thanks again.
Oh yeah. All right.
Oh, we got Barstool and Omaha shirts, fire shirts.
Hell yeah, get the
Let's
merch.
go.
Store.barstoolsports.com. All right, and that was talking college baseball with Ben Mintz. He's obviously very excited.
Very excited.
Yeah, I would be very excited too if I was at the College World Series. That would be. I got to get there some year. I don't know. We'll figure that out.
He did want me to remind folks that the Ole Miss DH Tim Elko hitting 2 grand slams on a torn ACL in the regional is something that people should remember. So don't forget that.
Yeah, definitely don't forget that. All right, that's it for this week. Final thoughts. The City Connect jerseys are pretty sweet. I mean, the Cubs one I like a lot. That leaked.
How do we rank these? Power rank these?
Marlins.
Yes, Marlins socks.
Which socks?
Marlins White Sox.
I'm gonna say Red
Sox.
I mean, I'm gonna say White Sox are number 1.
No, I'm rolling with the Sugar Kings. Those fucking Marlins jerseys are sexual. Oh my god,
I like the South Side. I'm gonna go.
And I do. I love the Southsiders. That's why they were number 2 for me. The Red Sox. That was the first one to drop, wasn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, and I really like that one as well. But unfortunately, they slide to number 3 for me. It's the Sugar Kings, the Southsiders. Then it's the Red Sox. Then it's Wrigleyville.
I got White Sox, Red Sox, Marlins, Cubs. I mean, the Marlins one is pretty sweet, but the Red Sox one, like when people saw it, they didn't know what to make of it because they didn't. If you didn't know what to make of it, then you obviously didn't understand it. Like it's the Boston Marathon colors, and the font is the same font as the finish line at the Boston Marathon. So I think it's really cool what they did to sort of make it like this is Boston. And I mean, the White Sox one looks fucking sick, and I love the Marlins one, but obviously, I mean, I like the Red Sox one more, and then the Cubs one, it was all right.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Cubs one.
Right.
I would purchase a Marlins and a White Sox City Connect jerseys.
Yeah, that'd be dope. All right. Enjoy this weekend of baseball. It's going to be a good one. Let's see. What do we got? What do we got for series coming up this weekend? We got Cubs, Cardinals. That'll be good. Padres, Mets again. Blake Snell and DeGrom again on Friday.
I got 3-hit Witt rolling into town tonight. Him and the Royals with cheese taking on the green and gold.
Yep. It looks like some teams are going to get the chance to beat up on some shitty teams, like the Dodgers are playing the Rangers. The A's are playing the fucking Royals. Good for you. The White Sox are playing the Tigers. They're going to beat up on them.
You know what? I do want to take
the Rays are playing the Orioles. It looks like the stronger teams are going to get to feast.
I want to take a couple of minutes to address
the Giants are playing the Nats. Go ahead.
Are going through right now. The Arizona Diamondbacks have lost, I believe it's 18 now, either 18
on
or
the road.
19.
The Arizona Diamondbacks have not won a game on the road since Madison Bumgarner's fake no-hitter.
No. Significant achievement.
Yeah. It's a good game.
Gerrit, as a guy who played for the Oakland A's, who looked at going on the road as an opportunity to play in the big leagues, because now you got a big league stadium, now you got a big league clubhouse, and you're going to have a big league crowd for the most part. You might be playing in front of 35,000 people, 40,000 people. That's going to be fun. And that changes things for you. When you are getting worked over day in, day out at the ballpark, and there's nothing to look forward to, it feels like, that is a horrible place to be mentally. And all you want to do is get away and change the scenery. So when you go on the road, it's like, oh man, thank God, new city, kind of refresh this, a new road trip, let's go. and whether it's a 7-day piece or a 10-day piece, you don't have a positive feeling of leaving your house and you haven't had one for 2 months. That just is brutal. Brutal. So chin up, D-backs. Hang in there. I did get to talk to our guy, AY, Alex Young, a little bit. That was nice.
I noticed that you said things aren't going to get better.
Saw Steven vote. Things aren't going to get better for no.
No.
It's
too bad. It's too bad.
'Cause
All right. We'll be back next week. Enjoy the weekend of baseball. We'll see you on Monday.
we go.